Elias's story begins on a day when he and his father, a musician who has just released a new hit single, watch a new family move into the house next door. Among them is Alexander, a boy about Elias's age. The next morning, when Elias wakes up and looks through his window, he sees Alexander looking back at him. Alexander waves first, and Elias, a bit surprised but curious, smiles and waves back. Later at school, Alexander is introduced to the class as the new student. During recess, Elias's friends warmly welcome him into their group. Alexander mentions that he and Elias have already met, and Elias confirms this, explaining that they are neighbors. Elias's girlfriend looks puzzled, wondering why Elias never mentioned this before. One of Elias's friends asks Alexander why he and his family moved from Brussels. Alexander says his father got a new job, so they had to relocate. When they ask about his mother, Alexander quietly admits that she passed away a few months ago. Elias, feeling sympathy for him, grows even more curious about this new boy, who seems so open yet carries a certain sadness. After school, Elias rides his bike home, and Alexander quickly catches up to him. Alexander comments on how beautiful the area is and how different it is from Brussels, which had no fields like these. On their way, they stop to buy strawberries and cherries, which feels like a small, sweet moment of bonding. Eventually, they find a spot by a lake under a tree where they sit and talk. Elias asks Alexander if he is comfortable with the new school environment. Alexander admits it's okay but hard since he misses his friends back in Brussels. Elias asks if Alexander has ever been in love. Alexander says yes, describing it as the best feeling in the world. Elias seems confused since he has a girlfriend, but doesn't understand what it truly means to feel love. When Elias asks if Alexander is currently seeing anyone, Alexander says he is not, but he was in love with a boy named Arthur a year ago. Elias doesn't know how to respond, and an awkward silence follows. Sensing this, Alexander decides they should head off. Elias says he has to see his grandfather, and they part ways. When Elias returns home, he finds his family, his mom, dad, brother, and his brother's girlfriend, having a late lunch with Alexander's father and sister. They all laugh and smile, making the atmosphere feel warm and welcoming. After the meal, Alexander invites Elias over to his new home. Inside, Elias sees a photo of Alexander's late mother, and they share a quiet moment talking about her. Afterward, Alexander teaches Elias a few notes on the piano. This scene feels gentle and intimate, as if they're slowly building trust and understanding. At school the next day, Elias discovers that some older students have defaced a news article about his father's music. Angry and hurt, Elias hides in the bathroom. A few minutes later, Alexander finds him and tries to cheer him up by joking that he'll take on the seniors. Elias points out that they're older and stronger, but Alexander says he's strong too, making them both laugh and easing the tension. Elias decides to show Alexander his grandfather's farm. They meet Elias's grandfather, hold baby piglets, and smile at each other as they playfully wrestle on a heap of hay. It feels almost romantic in how natural and carefree they are with each other. At school, Elias sits with his girlfriend on the playground, her head resting on his lap. But he can't stop staring at Alexander, who is chatting with a classmate across the way. Alexander notices Elias looking, creating a quiet, charged moment between them. After school, as they head home on their bikes, a group of seniors calls them Gaylords. Elias becomes upset, and Alexander responds by pushing over the seniors' bikes. The seniors chase them, but Elias and Alexander manage to run away. On their escape route, they discover an abandoned building. Alexander wants to explore it, but Elias is scared. Still, they go inside, playing around with some old knives like fencers. When the seniors come searching, they hide under a table and eventually slip away again. They end up by the lake where they swim, laugh, and really enjoy each other's company. After swimming, as they're heading home, it starts raining heavily. They find a spot to take shelter, but Elias is shivering with cold. Alexander notices and blows warm breath through his hands onto Elias's back, trying to warm him up. Elias says he feels it, then turns around. They look into each other's eyes, and Alexander leans in and kisses Elias. Elias is shocked at first, then smiles, but soon becomes confused. Later that evening, he acts strange at home, clearly trying to process what just happened. Not long after, Elias's friend group hosts a pool party, and Alexander shows up. Instead of greeting him, Elias avoids eye contact and pretends he doesn't see him. Alexander feels hurt and confused. This tension arises because of that kiss. They haven't talked about it, and Elias is clearly overwhelmed. Alexander eventually gets upset and leaves the party early. During the sleepover portion of the party, Elias can't sleep. He keeps thinking about Alexander. He sneaks out, takes his bike, and rides to Alexander's house. He calls up to Alexander's window, throwing small petals until Alexander comes down. Elias tries to kiss Alexander, but Alexander, still confused by Elias's earlier behavior, refuses. Elias tries again, and Alexander still says no. Frustrated and hurt, Elias goes home, cries, and even ends up fighting with his brother. The next day at school, Elias distances himself from everyone and hides out near the playground. Alexander, worried, follows him. They stand facing each other for a while, and then Elias rests his head on Alexander's chest, quietly admitting that he just wants to be with him. Just at that moment, Elias's girlfriend spots them and demands to know what's going on. She leaves upset, and Elias chases after her. Their friends ask what's happening, and eventually Elias and his girlfriend break up. A little later, Alexander finds Elias sitting alone somewhere on campus. He invites Elias to visit Brussels with him, showing him a bit of his old life. Elias doesn't give a direct answer right then. Elias soon receives a call from his father, asking him to come to a show. During the show, Elias feels bored and even a little angry. It prompts him to make a decision. He calls Alexander and agrees to go to Brussels. In Brussels, Alexander shows Elias around the city. They smile, eat, and enjoy the lively atmosphere. They take a photo together, and Alexander tells Elias to keep it. Alexander brings Elias to his uncle's bar and introduces him as his boyfriend. They watch a drag performance where Alexander plays the piano. Elias, although new to this scene, feels happy and free. He kisses Alexander again. This time their second kiss feels more assured and warm. Back at home, they start behaving like boyfriends, but quietly. They play in the woods. Elias sketches Alexander in their secret spots, and Elias takes Alexander to his grandfather's farm again. They spend evenings together, growing closer. The next day, they even arrive at class together. But during PE, Elias acts strangely again. When Alexander wins a game and tries to hug him, Elias pushes him away, suddenly worried about what others might think. Alexander gets confused and upset, feeling as if Elias is ashamed of him. After class, Alexander asks Elias if he actually likes him. Elias says he does, but he's scared of what people will say. He admits he doesn't know any other boys who are in love with each other. Alexander, feeling hurt, says he doesn't want Elias to be ashamed of him. Elias asks what he should do, and Alexander responds that he has already dealt with enough hardships and can't handle more of this stress. He leaves Elias standing there, feeling guilty and lost. At home, Elias argues with his parents and storms out dressed in his Halloween Prince Charming costume. He goes to invite his girlfriend to a Halloween party and kisses her, trying to prove something to himself. At the party, Elias sees Alexander dressed as the Joker. Alexander asks if Elias came with his girlfriend, and Elias says yes. Alexander leaves, disappointed but not really surprised. They play Spin the Bottle, and when it's Alexander's turn, the bottle points to a boy named Thomas. Alexander and Thomas say they don't mind kissing, and they do. Everyone around them laughs and seems supportive, but Elias feels a surge of jealousy and confusion. He leaves and his friends follow, trying to stop him. Lucas, a friend, asks him why he's acting this way. Elias shouts that he's not like Alexander, that he's not gay. Lucas tells him to stop being an idiot because Alexander is one of them and they care about him. Elias, still upset, shoves Lucas to the ground. Alexander helps Lucas up and then confronts Elias. In tears, Elias asks why Alexander didn't just stay in Brussels, saying that if Alexander had never come, Elias wouldn't be feeling so confused. Hurt, Alexander pushes Elias down. Elias runs off crying into the night and ends up at his grandfather's farm. The next day, Elias and his grandfather take a trip to another town. On the bus, Elias texts Alexander, apologizing and hoping they can meet again. Elias and his grandfather go hiking, and while resting, Elias comes out to him, admitting that he tried loving his girlfriend, but it never felt right. He confesses he loves Alexander very much. His grandfather is supportive and kind. Elias shows him the photo he took with Alexander in Brussels. His grandfather calls Alexander handsome, making Elias smile for what seems like the first time in a while. When they return, Elias's mom picks him and his grandfather up. On the drive home, Elias asks his mom to pull over. With his grandfather by his side, Elias comes out to his mother. He tells her he loves Alexander and that he tried to change but couldn't. She reassures him, saying he doesn't have to change and that he's perfect as he is. She hugs him, and Elias finally feels some peace. Elias can't stop looking at Alexander's window, hoping Alexander will appear so they can see each other again. His friend Lucas video calls him and invites him to the town's fanfare. Elias goes, and there he meets Alexander's father and sister. Alexander's father says Alexander decided not to come. Elias feels disappointed. Later, while racing toy cars with his friends, Elias thinks he sees Alexander. Distracted, he steps out of his toy car and gets hit by another one. Concerned, his friends ask what's wrong, and he tells them he saw Alexander. His ex-girlfriend encourages him to go after him. Elias searches the entire fanfare but can't find Alexander anywhere. Frustrated and sad, he sits alone on a bench. His brother appears and tells him that Alexander is at a bar and that Elias can find him there. Elias hugs his brother and rushes off to the bar. At the bar, Alexander is there, and when they see each other, they smile. Elias kisses Alexander in front of everyone, right in the bar where his father is performing his hit single. Alexander kisses him back. Their friends, including Elias's ex-girlfriend, cheer happily for them. Alexander's father and sister are delighted. Elias's mom smiles with pride. Elias's dad pauses singing, comes down to them, and shows his support, surprising those who might have expected anger. Instead, there's applause and acceptance, and then Elias's dad returns to singing. Elias rests his head on Alexander's shoulder, finally at peace with who he is and who he loves. The movie ends with Alexander coming over to pick Elias up for breakfast. They ride their bikes together with friends, Elias sitting on the back of Alexander's bike, holding him tightly. It's a simple, hopeful ending. This film is one of the best portrayals of young gay love I've seen. So refreshing, sweet, and innocent. It's the kind of story that makes you hope there will be a part 2, exploring their relationship now that they're finally together, accepted, and free to just be themselves. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Let us know in the comments below what your favorite part of the movie was and what you hope to see in a potential sequel.